Gervonta Davis is known to be one of boxing's most devastating knockout artists, building a super impressive record of 30 wins in 30 fights with 28 knockouts. But beyond that, it's now like the World Boxing Association lightweight champion is taking his boxing fierceness to his gym, as his training footage has shown how dangerous he's been in the gym.
Hey, can't even see who it is. Hey, who is the dude? Who is the dude?
Definitely, his fights against Ryan Garcia and Isaac Cruz presented him tougher opponents than this, but he seems to be doing more than he's ever done this time. Well, it could be because it's his last year in boxing based on his announcement last month, and he probably wants to give it his very best and leave the sport on a high when the ovation is loudest. The video showed Tank doing some body exercises, stretches, and push-ups. The lightweight world champion has missed weight quite a few times during the course of his career, and to avoid what happened in his last fight, where he had to miss his grand arrival because he was on the road jogging and making attempts to make weight. After his body exercises, the world champion got on the mitts and punching bag testing his punch power. Afterwards, he engaged in some sparring with an unknown sparring partner before taking a short break. He then looked to get camera and said, "Taking it all out on March 1st. According to Boxing News 24, Gervonta Davis is already working on his fitness and is almost at the weight for his title defense. And to begin the road to retirement, that promoter, Leonard Ellerby, said he understood in a chat for the laboratory with Plaz. I can understand what's going on. Things are different when you have kids. It changed your life completely. He sees things differently than he did 6 or 7 years ago. If that's what he said, that he's retiring and we all heard it," Leonard Ellerby said of Gervonta's retirement announcement, adding, "Life is so much more than something you do for a living. You have respect for the fans who pay their money to see you fight, but you have a life outside of boxing. They want you to keep doing this, and they really don't care about your health afterwards." Ellerby described boxing as a brutal sport, in which many boxers of the past have been taken advantage of in different ways, and also had different health problems. They went through a lot of health problems, a lot of permanent things. I understand the philosophy that you get into the sport and leave your mark and then you leave it there. Everyone's opinion is different and everyone has different goals in life, Ellerby said. Strangely, Gervonta Davis has hardly taken a break after his last win, as he resumed training with the Olympics team almost immediately. And just after that, he's been back to his gym with his coaches for his individual training sessions.
I guarantee we touch the body.
More than ever, the world champion is ready to even take his career to the next level by fighting against a world champion. And in preparation for that, Gervonta Davis has been training rigorously. In his most recent training session, he was sparring an opponent clearly bigger than him. Hence, while Gervonta Davis would easily knock out sparring partners around his weight class, this particular one was a little tougher because of his size. Also, Lamont Roach has assessed a recent training footage of Gervonta Davis and tweeted on X, before eventually deleting the same tweet. Easy work there. It was a random tweet that only those who had followed the progression of his tweets or saw Gervonta Davis's training footage would understand his intention. Shortly before this, he tweeted a response to a fan who wrote, "We are whipping DC bum for the rest of the year. Ravens today, Tank in December." To this, Lamont Roach responded, "This stuff is different over here," claiming he won't be a victim of Tank Davis when they eventually lock horns in the ring. All of these culminated in his tweet about Tank Davis's training session. And really, Lamont Roach has some good work to do in hyping himself up ahead of the fight. He's in such a situation where he needs to focus on the gym and focus on getting a huge payday. Hence, this requires him to keep trying to make an impression before the fight and get Gervonta Davis involved in a serious feud with him.
Keep trying.
But if you ask me, I'd suggest he gets locked in training to work on everything that needs to be worked on and perfect his skills as he approaches the biggest fight in his career. Maybe he has a contrary opinion though, especially when he began a social media war with Tank Davis? Despite being the World Boxing Association's super featherweight champion, fans are not excited about the fight, but the boxer duo decided to hype up the clash when both of them got into a war of words on X as Roach tried to troll the WBA lightweight champion just to receive a stellar response.
135, so I don't blame him for fighting that way, but he's not a big 35. I don't see why people like, oh, you brought up a smaller guy, woo-de-woo, blah, blah, blah. I mean, like...
The argument started when heavyweight boxer Marcellus Williams asked Davis about the camp fees to spar with the champion. Williams wanted to work on his skills and had every motivation to make the situation work. However, Lamont Roach Jr. quickly responded to the tweet and stated, "He gonna need to spar you, brah, no funny." Davis immediately asked the meaning behind the post, and Roach quoted a fan reaction who explained the tweet. Roach quoted a fan reply who wrote, "Translation, you need to spar someone heavy cause he coming with it," explaining the meaning behind Roach's tweet. According to the Reaper, the 30-0 boxer needs to spar against heavier boxers before their fight in December. And even though Davis is thinking of an easy fight, Roach will take this opportunity to make a name for himself and increase his stocks.
To me personally, I'm not stunned that. You know what I'm saying? They're going to keep saying that. They're going to keep saying that. You know what I'm saying? I fight at 130 because that's what I campaigned at. That's why I started my career.
Tank did not let the disrespect go idly as he responded and wrote, "I advise you not to talk so much. It can be bad for you. You know that already though, yo," stating that Roach should do the talking inside the ring and not online. He further warned Roach about the consequences of making the World Boxing Association lightweight champion angry. The war of words quickly picked up steam from there as Roach struck back and stated that he was not like the other guys Davis had fought before. Over the years, Tank has been accused of handpicking his opponents. Roach wrote, "You must think I'm one of those regular guys you fought or some. LOL, cut it out, measy," making sure that the Baltimore native knows it won't be like his previous fights. Even though he is from a lower weight class, he wants this fight and will do anything and everything to shock the world. Gervonta Davis once again decided to control his words and indicated that he would do the talking in the ring.
This between us both already, that we competed twice before in 2 close fights in the amateurs, and that you know what I'm saying, like...
He quoted Reaper's tweet and just wrote, "Say nothing," expressing his superiority over the World Boxing Association super featherweight champion. This online war has created some hype for the fight. The fight will take place at 135 pounds, and the World Boxing Association lightweight title will be on the line. Before his last fight, we saw glimpses of this, but we all thought it was a casual stunt. His coach, Calvin Ford, and former promoter Leonard Ellerby both attested to the fact that the Tank Davis that returned from a 14-month layoff was a beast that had never been seen since his career began many years ago. Before the fight, Gervonta Davis was absent during the media workout. However, his coach, Calvin Ford, was there to represent him.
Business, y'all. You know, we've been waiting for this for a while. It's been a while since we've been in the ring. So we just want to come out and put on a great performance for the fans. It's all about the fans at the end of the day.
Well, we hear in prize fighting especially that it's about momentum. And when it comes to Gervonta Davis, I don't think you can have more momentum than coming into this matchup.
Speaking to Fight Hype, Davis's coach Calvin Ford urged people not to read into the no-show too much. "I want to apologize to the fans," Ford said, killing the buzz that had built since the scheduled arrival started some 90 minutes earlier. He can't make it at this moment because he's been delayed, but he's going to make it up to y'all on fight night. Trust what I'm saying to y'all. Y'all want to see this performance that he's going to put on to the fans. How long y'all been knowing Tank, man? I used to do the same thing y'all do. I stopped doing it. Let him just do what he does, because at the end of the day, that's what makes Tank... I don't know how his body is. You know, sometimes y'all gotta go to work. Do y'all feel like it all the time? We are getting ready to roll out to the world." Asked if he would make the press conference, Ford was optimistic.
A press conference.
Let's look at history. Let's look at the stats.
For sure.
So, you know, again, but how many times y'all came here, y'all, he did, one time he did showed up.
I've never seen Tank missing a press conference. Let's look at history. Let's look at the stats. Finally, Calvin Ford then warned his opponent on behalf of his absent fighter, Gervonta Davis, saying, "We're back in business. We've been waiting for this for a while." Ford said of Davis's first fight back after 14 months, "We want to put on a great performance. We want to put on a great performance for the fans at the end of the day."
And for the fans, you know, who do the conspiracy theory, there's no concerns, you know.
No, we great. We great. Trust me. Y'all want y'all guy to come out and put on that show for y'all. Trust me.
Watching him in camp, it scares me because of the things he's doing and his maturity when he gets in that ring. He'll hurt Frank Martin. I've seen him listen to a conversation, listen to what's going on, and he's really focused. However, Gervonta Davis, while the Grand Arrival was going on, was spotted out on a run in Vegas at the time of the Grand Arrivals. Leonard Ellerby was even more bullish on Davis. When you look at the younger generation, there is one name that rings everywhere. Tank Davis, said Ellerby.
Davis a monster. Canelo ain't scared of him.
Well,
It's just business at the end of the day.
well, yeah, like because there's people who are beginning to.
He's the most exciting and dominant fighter in the entire world. When he steps into the ring, he wants to make sure he gets their ass out of there. He doesn't want unanimous decisions. He gives fans exactly what they want to see with an edge-of-the-seat performance. You know he's going to get a knockout at some point in the fight, and it will be no different Saturday night. Making a rather controversial statement about the Tank Davis's fight, Leonard Ellerby claimed Tank will ultimately deal with his opponent. During the final press conference for this Gervonta Davis fight, Mayweather Promotions' former CEO Leonard Ellerby took to the podium to explain to the public why Martin might be in over his head against Davis. Two things that kind of stand out to me over the last week or so that's been said, Ellerby said.
Great shape because Derek's a phenomenal trainer. But let's be real. Okay, for starters, in 2017, do you know what Tank was doing? Tank became world champion. You know what Frank Martin was doing?
One is coming from his opponent's promoter, Errol Spence Jr. He says that Tank Davis is going to get dominated for 12 rounds. Dominated? Errol, don't believe that dumb stuff, I can promise you that. And then the guy says, "Oh, I'm gonna beat Tank's ass." Okay, he's in tremendous shape. We know Derek got him in great shape because Derek's a phenomenal trainer. But let's be real. For starters, in 2017, you know what Tank was doing? Tank became world champion. You know what his opponent was doing? He wasn't even professional yet.
He wasn't even professional yet. Okay? So one thing about this boxing shit, you can't skip steps. It's something what we call experience. And doing.
He continued. So, one thing about this boxing stuff, you can't skip steps. It's something we call experience. And you gain that over a period of time by fighting the top fighters and doing your thing. Again, I can't say enough. I personally think he is a good fighter. But there's a difference between being good and being special. Everything that he does good, Tank does better. And come Saturday night, don't blink, because this stuff could be over early. Lamont Roach is a good fighter. He's technically sound, he's a championship level fighter. But as far as opponents for Gervonta Tank Davis in a pay-per-view event go, I'd prefer to see someone who has produced explosive performance at the highest level, or at least is a polarizing personality. Davis is a bona fide pay-per-view star, whether you agree that so many of his fights should have been on pay-per-view, and I disagreed with most of them. He's been established on pay-per-view for a while now. What's been lacking is the proper opposition necessary to charge those kinds of fees. Roach is a solid fighter, but he hasn't reached the pinnacle, and I also don't think he's the nature of character to compensate for that. He's had success at super featherweight, but it's taken him a while to do so. If he'd made numerous title defenses, a fight between him and Davis might make more sense, but he's made one, against Fergal McCrory. We've seen Davis in this sort of fight before, such as against Hector Luis Garcia, who since being stopped by Davis has only lost a split decision to Roach. But then that's become the pay-per-view model. Once a fighter has that status, he stays on pay-per-view, regardless of his opposition.
Danny, I wanted to get your thoughts. I appreciate you coming out. I wanted to get your thoughts, Danny, on the Tank Roach thing. So just your thoughts on the fight in general. What do you think about the fight? Do you think that it was the right opponent for Tank?
I think it's a good, solid fight.
Frank Martin, Davis's past opponent, is also a solid fighter, and unlike Roach, is established at lightweight. He'd been on course to fight Shakur Stevenson, and he'd produced some good performances that meant there was a curiosity surrounding him at the highest level. There's no question Davis is of the highest level, which is why the careful selection of his opposition is frustrating. It's also relevant that Roach, who is spoken about highly by those who know him, isn't the biggest of super featherweights, where he still appears capable of making defenses of his World Boxing Association title, and that Davis is such a powerful lightweight.
You know, Lamont is a champion. He is coming up one weight class, but Tank fought at 130 before too. So they both really 130 pounders fighting at 135. It's a good solid fight.
Davis has to be considered a heavy favorite. With respect to Roach, if he won, it would be the upset of the year, and a matchup capable of producing the upset of the year shouldn't be on pay-per-view. However, when asked what his views on the Gervonta Davis Lamont Roach fight were, promoter Eddie Hearn said that Roach is a good fighter, and that the overall reaction to the fight was unfair. Following the announcement of the clash, scheduled for December 14th, many were surprised by the choice of Roach as Davis's opponent.
What do you think of the announcement of the Gervonta Davis-Roach fight?
I think that, you know, it's had a lot of criticism, but it's not.
Gervonta Tank Davis, with a perfect record of 30-0 with 28 KOs, is on a 21-fight streak of victories by knockout or technical knockout, barring his decision win against Isaac Pitbull Cruz. He last fought in June, knocking out Frank Martin in the 8th round using his speed and power to outclass Martin. Meanwhile, Roach, a junior lightweight champion, is gaining weight to face Davis, one of boxing's most dominant knockout assassins.
You gotta look for him, you know? Mm-hmm. If you switch it up now, it ain't gonna do too much. We don't have enough time to switch it up, you know?
So what would you say that Martin's probably like stronger suit is more fighting on the back foot?
Some fans feel like Davis picked a weaker opponent to fight and maintain his perfect record because the fight lacks the excitement and competitiveness a matchup against another top lightweight contender could have offered. Hearn claims that Tank, the WBA lightweight champion, had no choice but to avoid these fighters for various reasons. Ryan Garcia is suspended. Shakur Stevenson is injured. Isaac Pitbull Cruz was recently beaten. Devin Haney, overcome Vasily Lomachenko, made the decision to miss the rest of 2024.
I won't be doing my phases for this one because we know the family, you know.
Yeah,
that things get.
Tank Davis has the option to fight Eden De Los Santos, Andy Cruz, Keyshawn Davis, and Raymond Muratalla, but none of them are as well known as Lamont Roach. There wouldn't be a spike in PPV purchases over Tank Davis's choice of Roach, even if he had chosen one of them, and casual boxers wouldn't know who they are. I think the online reaction is a little bit unfair. Lamont Roach is a good fighter. The problem is no one knows who he is, and with Tank's position in the sport, people want him in big fights, and it's not a big fight. If you know your boxing, you know it's a good fight. He's a super featherweight. But what were the available options for Tank, really? Eddie Hearn said in an interview with Fight Hub TV.
A bad fight, you know. Lamont Roach is a world champion. He's smaller than Gervonta Davis. The problem is not many people are aware of who he is or his ability, but he can.
The outcry has been sparked by more than just the fact that nobody knows who Roach is, but boxing enthusiasts who are sure Roach is incapable. Although this is a difficult fight for Roach, 29, it is an opportunity for him to elevate his career as he will face one of boxing's biggest names. He is a skilled and crafty fighter with a strong chin, and if he can capitalize on Davis' tendency to start slow, there is a slim chance he could make the fight competitive and secure an early victory.
I see a nice competitive fight.
Nice competitive fight?
Yeah. He's not going to fight like Martin, you know. He got a more come forward style.
While Davis remains a massive draw in boxing, the fight has left some fans underwhelmed, hoping for a more marquee matchup against top contenders in his weight class. Within a week of their fight announcement, he sent shots on X, formerly Twitter, and has even graced a live interview where he had so much to say about Tank.
135, so I don't blame him for fighting that way. But he's not a big 35. I don't see why people like, oh, you brought up a smaller guy, woo-de-woo, blah, blah, blah. I mean, like.
Although many critics have pointed out the weight difference between the two, Roach does not believe it will affect the outcome of the fight. This bout will be for Davis's WBA title in a pay-per-view event. And that's all for now. For the very best updates on news, moments, events, and actions in the world of boxing, stay connected with us by subscribing to our YouTube channel, and don't forget to turn on notifications to get notified when we drop quality contents like this. Until next time, peace out!